who has been part and parcel of judgments for the last 4 decades, be it constitutional law, arbitration, family law, white-collar crime. Her name is none other than Senior Advocate Geeta Luthra. There have not been more than 11 judges in the Supreme Court.
One of the first things I will tell a woman lawyer, never wear the fact that you are a woman as a disadvantage on your sleeve. You have to still educate people as how to respect women.
You've also been pivotal in shaping one of the leading judgments under the Transgender Act.
India is supposed to be the kindest of kind countries, but we are unkind with our transgenders. We have to make them integrated with our society.
We don't have formula and not just a single act which sets the tone for the maintenance which one can be awarded.
A very difficult question. Reason is that
What do you do to be more comfortable in your own skin?
there should be work-life balance.
Right.
Each of us need to take off a little time.
Good morning and welcome to Courtroom Stories. Before I begin, I must confess that the reason why we have started this is because despite being in the profession for the last 13 years, I still feel there is a lot to be learned because you're every day you're only scratching the surface. Thousands of cases and there is something new point every day. So one very interesting fact about is that when you read the newspapers on a front page, you'll see judgments being spoken about, be it for the right reason, for the wrong reasons. And of course, wrong reasons one can understand, social media has to do its work, but for the right reasons, these judgments really do shape the way our country implements any law. And to know more about such stuff, to know more about these judgments which have shaped our constitution or shaped our society, we have one such stalwart joining us today who has been part and parcel of these judgments for the last 4 decades, be it constitutional law, arbitration, family law, white-collar crime, name it, and she's done it all. Her name is none other than Senior Advocate Ms. Geeta Luthra. Thank you for joining us today, ma'am.
Thank you.
And to let you know a little bit more about her, she is not only been at the forefront of some of the leading judgments, but she also holds a great responsibility in terms of leading certain great organizations. She's also the president of the Oxford and the Cambridge Society. She's also the vice president of the Indian Council of Arbitration, a member International Academy of Family Laws. And despite all this, she has also managed to do a lot of time, take out time for do pro bono work and help the poor and the needy. So I don't think we'll have a better candidate to understand what really has transpired and what really does it take to shape some of these leading judgments. And in fact, in a place where there are not too many female lawyers who are at the forefront, she is one of the fiercest lawyers at the very helm of the affairs. So I think that's a very interesting line of question and an interesting thought we should begin with. So thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. And my very first question, in fact, is about women in law. And there is actually a lot of debate even today that in the entire history, there have not been more than 11 judges in the Supreme Court. There's probably been one or two judges bench ever formed for women lawyers. There's only one Chief Justice in 25 high courts. And the number is extremely skewed when it comes to litigation. So somebody like you who has been there for this long, and probably when you started, and probably the numbers were even way worse at that point of time. So how do you see, what do you really think should be the way forward? How can, there could be some kind of structural changes to make life a little more simpler for equality and for more women lawyers to be?
See, this profession, to my mind, is firstly, it's male-centric. The second is that it is a men's club. So sometimes a lot of women end up wearing the fact that they're a woman on their sleeve. Now, one of the first things I would advise any woman, whether one is successful or unsuccessful, I don't think ultimately what matters is you are good at what work you get. and women do not get the same opportunity. They will get the same opportunity in arbitration, perhaps. They'll get the same opportunity in family law, perhaps. But hardcore commercial criminal litigation, you will find a woman as good as a man. Say two associates I may have had. One is a woman, one is a man. The man gets far more breaks if we are talking of criminal, commercial, or pure commercial civil litigation. Now, the fact is, the ratios have to be skewed because the mindset is skewed. And women lawyers, particularly, the expectations at home also become greater. So they're always playing a juggling act. And sometimes the 3-4 years you lose in childbearing or in child rearing sometimes brings you at a disadvantage which many women can overcome, but many can't. So one of the aspects, and there was a 10-year younger person, not from Cambridge, Oxford, not having been standing counsel, not having been all this. But I was told, I said, you want to be a senior, perhaps you should be milder and softer. Now, nobody will tell this to a male counterpart.
Right.
And we saw this, and they said it apologetically. But the very fact that it's in the mindset
Right.
is a very, very difficult thing which a woman has to overcome. These are experiences which one doesn't really talk about, because if you start thinking about that,
Right.
you just have to be strong, know you are good, know you are better than the best, and just be humble and keep doing your work. But for example, I arguing a very major constitutional point in the Delhi High Court before a judge, and he was being so condescending when he was telling me, and I was fortunate because I'd been taught by Lauterpacht. He was condescendingly telling me something about what Lauterpacht had said. I said, yes, I've been taught by the man. He was my professor. So, but this is not something which every person can say. We are all in an equal playing field.
Right.
Some will have advantages. You'll have family, you'll say, I'm first generation, I'm second generation. But and it does help to be second generation. I'm not saying it doesn't. But there are many pluses and minuses. There will be chances, whether you are first generation, second generation, third generation. When you are a woman, you work with some kind of requirement to prove yourself over and over again.
Right.
To each judge. But I think after a point you build a reputation.
Right.
And some judges are actually more receptive of women.
Right.
So you may have a small percentage of that,
Yeah.
but you do have people like that now coming in. And
Right.
I'll tell you one more thing, that now that people are seeing, many judges, many lawyers are seeing that their daughters are becoming lawyers and judges. This generation now is becoming more receptive of young women lawyers. And I feel one of the first things I will tell a woman lawyer, never wear the fact that you are a woman or as a disadvantage on your sleeve. Just do your work and don't think that this gender needs extra favors. We'll do well without any favors.
Right. Other than this, and I think another very important, challenging problem is faced with women in law is that the amount of unwarranted remarks. One is about being, like you mentioned in the beginning, that there could be a situation where they feel that you are softer, and the other is like remarks or comments which nobody wants to hear, like uncomfortable comments or in lewd comments, be it from, I mean, somebody was very recently, I don't want to name the retired Supreme Court judge, who was mocked about for the reasons that somebody winked at if somebody winked at him, he would give them an order. That kind of stuff happens a lot in the litigation. How does one cope up with that? And where is the answer? Where does the answer lie for all that?
I think people don't know what they are saying. Some know what they are saying and do it deliberately. They're the ones totally to blame. Some who don't know what they are saying and say things, and of course, will get slammed. But the fact is, today's day,
Yeah.
everyone has to be very careful what they are saying and how they are saying it.
Right.
According to me, there has again, while I acknowledge and recognize and have seen this for myself, that because it's a men's club, their younger women lawyers have been vulnerable and have been vulnerable to unprecedented comments. You see that even every time, even in the public space. Ultimately, where are our lawyers and judges made up of?
Right.
They are made out of the common man.
Correct.
So the same common man, if the same politicians make all these comments about women being unsafe because they are going out, about women being unsafe because they shouldn't be out at night, they shouldn't be wearing clothes which according to them are over conservative, non over conservative, then the question is, same people make up the rest of people in authority.
Right.
And there will have to be cautiousness. We've got all the acts in place. You have the POSH Act, you have criminal law with 354, 506, 509. You have every, I mean, if we are talking of laws, India is a very trigger happy, law happy country.
Correct.
But you have to still educate people, as not make them study, not make them do schooling or BAs. You have to train them in your homes as how to respect women and how to treat their equal and with dignity. And I think all of us have that duty.
Right.
When we bring up our families, when we interact with children, when we explain to people that this way of speaking is, and we have to lead by example. If we are a good example, our children and those around us will know.
Right.
It's like picking up a paper rather than dropping it on the road.
Right.
If I make sure that I do it and I tell my 30 employees to do it,
Right.
then those 30 employees hopefully will tell their people.
Absolutely.
So there is a lot of looseness of language because people didn't know better.
Yeah.
And I think now women are being equally strong in pointing out that wrongdoing every time somebody is daring to do it.
But from an exploitation point of view, I'm jumping onto a new topic about the crimes against children and the kind of exploitation that we see sometimes in children as well. In fact, it's a hotly debated topic in terms of what should be the age or what should be the, because there is one line of thought that in India adolescents also do fall in love, and more often than not, this by human body science perspective, it is 15 to 16 years onward. And more often than not, if there are cases that are foisted against adolescents who are in love, the counterpart or whoever the member who's been accused of committing this offense, more often than not, their life is ruined, because unlike politicians, a normal person will not be able to overcome a stigma of a POXO case. So where do you think that exploitation, I mean, how do you see that law? I mean, should that remain as it is or should it change?
So the best thing is to speak to some of the judges that are doing POXO cases in the sessions courts, and who will genuinely tell you what is the ratio of genuine cases against false. So while the false cases are reprehensible and heinous today, and there will be a tenant landlord case where POXO will be introduced, there will be a husband wife case, a father in law daughter in law case. Now, how difficult is it for our judges who want to be gender sensitive
Yeah.
and who want to make sure that no genuine case goes unpunished? How difficult is it for that poor judge in 10 minutes of deciding a grant of bail to know, is this a genuine case? Is this a false case? Am I letting off someone who's genuinely guilty? Because, see, even within the family, it is not unknown that POXO does happen. It's not unknown.
Absolutely.
Although in that Satish Mehra judgment, I think it was Justice Munshi, I can't recall the judge, he said that this doesn't happen, incest doesn't happen in India, uh, this doesn't happen, that it may happen in the same. It does happen.
Yes, yes, yes.
It happens. We can't close our eyes to this aspect.
Right.
But we can't let one person go to the gallows who is innocent
Yeah.
just because somebody has made a false complaint out of vindictiveness.
Right.
And rather that 99 guilty go free,
Yeah.
then one innocent man gets punished. So there is, POXO is something, to my mind, it's gender neutral,
Yeah.
because there are many cases of young boys also facing this.
Right.
There are many cases of young girls facing it. But your question is more germane, that what do you do for this range of 13, 14, 15, who are teenagers, who have natural bodily reactions,
Yeah.
who read all this crap which comes on social media,
Yeah.
get attracted,
Yeah.
and then one or the other's life is ruined,
Yeah.
because not reporting it is also an
A crime.
offense.
Yes.
So the question then is, what do you do
Yeah.
if, as a doctor or as a person, you are saying, oh, that look, I am sending you away, even though I have to do counseling for you as a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
because I have to report this case.
Yeah.
Then nobody will be ready to come.
Yeah.
Whereas that child needs psychiatric treatment or counseling.
Yeah.
So and it happens among young 14, 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
They go to a counselor, they will confide in the counselor, and the school counselor says, sorry, buddy, I have to get an FIR registered against you.
Yeah.
So there has to be that doctor patient privilege, to my mind,
Right.
for somebody who confides in their doctor or
Yeah.
counselor.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we have to educate our children. Our children do not know this is an offense. They don't know that they will get into trouble, small, young children. And I get to be asked by so many schools and so many parents.
Yeah.
And it is such a dilemma, because two young people have done some mild indiscretion.
Yeah.
And somewhere they've realized, because one, either the girl or the boy's parents have become alerted.
Yeah.
But if it rolls into a big FIR
Yeah.
and a criminal case,
That's obviously.
so I have seen, ultimately, morality and law is good, but I have seen judges who have been sensitive. But I have also seen courts who have gone strictly by the law,
Yeah.
and the law is very strict.
Right.
The law is very, very strict.
So maybe the answer to the question could be that they could draw an exception in the cases of where there is romantic issues between the children. Then maybe an exception that then the power should be at 16 and above, or maybe the first time offenders where in a situation like this could be given discretionary relief. Maybe that could be a way forward.
So I recall this judgment many, many years ago. I think Justice Manmohan Sareen must have retired 15 years ago. He and Aruna Suresh gave a judgment in a case, I think they were 17-year-old or 16 and a half. And then the matter went to Supreme Court, and maybe, if I recall correctly, the Supreme Court said, but the law is the law.
Yeah.
So while some people would understand and say, look, these are young people who are at the cusp of becoming major. And then the question is, if you say a 17-and-a-half-year-old is at the cusp, then do you say a 16-and-a-half-year-old is at the cusp? Or do you say 14 or 15? So they should
Right.
draw in and build in exceptions of romantic, parlays,
Yeah.
and something which comes in sexual assault or aggravated sexual assault, where the punishment is very, very heinous.
Right. In fact, you've done one of the most leading cases in under the POSCO Act, and I want you to share a few thoughts about the case which is normally known as the skin to skin case. So,
Yes.
what do you have to say about that, and how do you think that is shaping or redefining the way the law has been laid
So
out?
that was an interesting case for
Right.
two reasons.
Right.
I and my brother never oppose each other in court, but Siddharth got asked by legal aid and to assist in the matter.
Right.
So that was, I think, perhaps the one case we've done against each other.
Oh, I see.
He was appearing for the accused Satish on behalf of legal aid, and I was appearing for the National Commission for Women.
Right.
And the question was an interesting question, that if somebody touches you on top of your sweater or your blouse,
Right.
and touches you at a vulnerable part like the breast or some other part near your genitals through the pocket
Right.
of your
Clothes.
track bottom or your shirt,
Right.
would that still amount? Or somebody puts a sheet and then lies sexually on top of you.
Right.
Are these part of the definition of POXO? Because does it assume a touch, a physical touch, being a touch on your skin?
Right.
So then for it got known as the skin to skin case.
Right.
And I was able to successfully bring out the fact that these are cases which would come within the definition of POXO, and gave examples that suppose I touch the genitals of a girl through her track bottom pant,
Right.
and I actually molest her. I do something on her breast. I do something on any other part of her body. I do it with a sheet or some plastic or anything which would come between her and my skin touching.
Right.
Is it equally an offense?
Right.
And we read into the definition of section 6 and 8, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken,
Right.
that it would also be an offense,
Right.
and that's why the man was convicted.
In fact, one of my questions about POSCO, you had already answered in one of your earlier answers, that about when I was talking about the reporting part, that Section 19 creates a huge amount of imbalance and conflict, that how a child sometimes wants to confess, and the confession can tantamount to, like you said, mentioned, into registration of an FIR, because if that is an offense, then the person is duty bound. Anybody is duty bound to say it, and which is why you made the distinction that how sometimes confidentiality should be maintained, and maybe that exception should be drawn into the section itself. So I'll move on to the next question.
Can I tell you one example in this, which,
Ji.
if it's one of my clients
Right.
had this custody access husband and wife,
Right.
and the servant molested her two boys.
Right.
And it so happened that she didn't have the sense. She's a doctor, but she didn't report it. And when I brought it out to the court, when she brought it out to the court, I think it's before I came into the matter, the court actually said an FIR is to be registered against you for not reporting it in time. And they actually registered an FIR against the lady, even though she was never there, and she got to know, and she brought it to the notice of the court, therefore, that the access has to be careful, or the servant has to be thrown out, and all those things, and some action has to be taken.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to be sensitive.
Yeah.
You can't be registering an FIR against the very parent who is being protective just because, for whatever protectiveness,
Yeah.
they haven't rushed to the court or to the CWC.
Right. it's a complete mischief. I think it's a long use of the law itself, because the intent is to ensure that everybody reports a crime, and here you're punishing the parent because there was some lapse. So of course it's unfortunate, and I think you're right. I think there should be exceptions drawn to this to ensure that there is a little bit more balance there. The other question, which of course the with the intent of which the POSCO Act is made, is to ensure that there are speedy trials, and I think it's probably one hurtful issue to every lawyer in every kind of sort of court case as well, because we don't kind of see the kind of disposal that we wish to see in many cases. And of course, even if the remedy under the act also says that it has to be done within 1 year, which is there in arbitration also, here also, it normally does not pan out. In fact, interestingly, I'm aware of a case where somebody who was trying out somebody under the POSCO, a junior judge, because he tried the case so fast, the judge was being prosecuted for that.
7 days.
7 days. In fact, my father only defended him in the Supreme Court. But be that as it may, what do you think is the answer to this? Like, how do we ensure that these cases are finished off faster, or the proper relief is granted to people who are suffering from such?
See, I feel that a bit of trial court practice, and I've had the opportunity of doing pro bono 1 or 2 cases. Ultimately, Shivani took it over from me, but I was helping this person because he lost his job and some false case had been made. What happens sometimes is POXO complaints are filed and not prosecuted for many reasons.
Right.
The girl grows up, she gets married, the girl's parent has used it for an oblique reason. There is a sense of trauma, you don't want to keep going to the court.
Right.
Sometimes the cross examination, they know that it's not a genuine case, the cross examination, they don't want the child to come to. This is so sensitive a field of law that I can't even begin to answer. What happens once in a while is that the courts will tell you, firstly, a lot of the POXO accused do not have lawyers.
Right.
They don't have good lawyers at all. They have somebody who will come for one date, not come for the cross. And imagine, look at the punishment. So you have to have a robust system of legal aid.
Right.
So that you can actually do the trial in 1 year.
Right.
And the judges have to be alert that the person doesn't have a good lawyer.
Yeah.
He's got a... Because a lot of them come from a poorer strata of society.
Right.
They can't afford counsels.
Right.
If they afford counsels, the counsels will come once or twice and flay off.
Yeah.
Many of them remain in jail, so they're the only breadwinner.
Right.
Now that is another point for another day.
Yeah.
But the fact is that I do think in India,
Yeah.
we have to be more generous in grant of bail, even for very heinous offenses.
Right.
The breadwinner is in who will pay for the lawyers and the litigation
Correct.
and the defense.
Right.
And the family then becomes totally destitute.
Right.
The children, I've seen children being sent to orphanages of people like this.
No, actually, you're right. And I think that, of course, bail is something which, at least Justice Oak, while he was serving, that he did lay a precedent in cases of TADA and others also, that even under special acts, they should be more and more liberal, because the cases have to be seen and you can't have superimposing conditions under bail. But my challenge, and I think part of it, what you actually answered, is that, some of these lawyers who are defending these matters are not as well equipped to deal with these cases. So maybe it's a time for bar councils to make it mandatory for senior advocates and lawyers with some amount of per capita income, that if you are earning more than this, then you must have a certain amount of cases as pro bono, to ensure that there is little more level playing field, or have little more specific courts, special courts, that at least judges who are only doing POSCO day in, day out are trying out these cases and finishing it on day-to-day basis. Maybe these could be, solutions that we are looking at.
So You've said two suggestions.
Right.
First, let me talk about the lawyer suggestion.
Right.
We are very unlucky in India
Mm-hmm.
that good trial lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
unlike the West, are virtually not recognized. We are only recognized if you are in the High Court or the Supreme
Supreme Court.
Court. But your trial happens in trial courts.
Correct.
So, how will I ensure
Mm.
a senior advocate will go to the trial court to do a trial? And that's a problem. A lot of seniors would be ready to do pro bono. And I think two pro bonos in a day, in a month, or three pro bonos in a month for a senior advocate are not a big ask.
Yeah.
So I think that's something between 3 to 5 pro bonos.
Yeah.
I mean, we are doing 5 matters a day. If
Yeah.
we do 10 matters, or very senior people, some will have a roster of 20 matters.
Yeah.
Doing 5 a month is literally saying once a week or 1.5 times a week. It's not much.
Yeah.
Everybody can do it at the High Court, Supreme Court level. But how do you get good lawyers
To do this.
to do it at trial in special judge when everybody's in a rush to be in the High Court, Supreme Court? In all those countries, some of the most famous lawyers are the ones that can do a good trial.
Yeah.
In India, good trials are days gone by. Nobody recognizes cross examination. Nobody wants to do that. That's not an accepted field. You don't even become a senior if you're only in trial.
Yeah.
You know, there are problems, but I have done legal aid. I've gone to Tihar jail. I was the first lawyer to go to Tihar jail for legal aid.
Right.
And I think now lots of people go. I used to go Tuesdays, Fridays evening and, address the issues of the women and the juveniles and so on.
Yeah.
And now that part of going to Tihar, that has got more systemized
Right.
by many college students, many others going there. But trial is something where to get people to volunteer, good people to volunteer, is a big ask. And I would love it if more and more people did that.
Right.
Now, the second issue
Special courts.
was special courts. You see, you have special courts. And these courts in Delhi, they are not giving a single adjournment. In fact, even if somebody wants an adjournment, they are not giving. But sometimes the POXO victims don't come for whatever reason. So the judges will give them a long rope, sometimes 5 times, sometimes 10.
Which is not necessary. Which is not necessary.
Which is not necessary. I don't think you should give, while a person, the accused is in jail, 10 adjournments over a period of 1 year to a POXO victim to come. With
because if these are false cases, then they need to be put at its perfect place as well. In fact, Justice Kaul, while talking about these vexatious claims, has put such heavy cost. The least could be done in at least POSCO cases if the ones who are not interested are mostly should be on the lines of filing it for some ulterior purposes. Mostly, unless they're not getting enough counselling or enough support system to do this. But if for any other reason, if they're not doing it, then they should also be hauled up for it. I mean, it should not, if it's such a serious offense where somebody's life could be destroyed, then why should anyone be allowed to just file it and while away?
I agree. But POXO in Delhi is, for example, and I'm not speaking pan country, in Delhi, because I am aware the judges are special courts. They are being strict. They are also realizing non-genuine from genuine, but they are being slightly hesitant in acquitting because, there is this thing you are letting off an POXO accused. So they are being slightly hesitant in acquitting. But I do think that given everything, POXO is being given the special treatment that it deserves.
Right. So moving on to, in fact, another act which has its share of lack of implementation, has its share of social stigma. We're now talking about the Transgender Act and how In fact, very recently, Justice Bharatiwala also commented on it to be more of a paper act than an actual act, because even the states are dismal and the center is dismal in implementation in its true sense, whether it's to do with discrimination, whether it's to do with welfare schemes, so on, so forth. But before we dive into talking about the nitty-gritties and the problems that the act faces as on date, I want you to, because you were also had the I mean, you've also been pivotal in shaping one of the leading judgments in the under the Transgender Act, and I'm talking about the one of the persons who was in the paramilitary who was seeking your assistance in handling that case. Could you please share with everyone what that case was
I
about?
think you're talking of Faizan Siddiqui's case.
Yes.
This plucky, brave young person came to me from Lucknow. She's got into the SSB. She was very unfortunate because there were three siblings. Everyone had the same problem. And for the parents, it was such a trauma. And then she'd got done this sex reassignment surgery and had got into the paramilitary force, but they weren't taking her on because she had had sex reassignment surgery. So
Right.
the only negativity was that she can't bear children in the normal way. Now, that doesn't come in the way of her work performance. So we brought this up in the Delhi High Court, and I remember that lady even now. She came with all of a princely sum of 4,000 rupees. And then I told her she could. I tried to get her another job in addition,
Right.
but I told her she could stay somewhere here.
So I can help you.
I could help her so that she could stay here. And I told her, she said, I have 4,000. Can I give you 2,000 and keep 2,000? I said, no, you keep all 4,000. So it was really a labor of love. And she's a ever grateful human being. And I feel if we can do some service to people like this, so dignified, and she needed to do this not only for herself to prove herself,
Yeah.
but for her parents who
Right.
needed to put their head up with respect, dignity. And I think for her, this was so important. And I'm glad we could do this for her because, fortunately, even at that time, even in the US, most judgments we saw of military or paramilitary, they were not giving jobs to those who were having sex reassignment surgeries.
Right.
And this person in India, we were more progressive.
That's
And I
amazing.
give credit to Justice Geeta Mittal for spearheading that judgment. But we were able to do this.
That's amazing. No, in fact, I was going through the judgment myself. The term of disorder of sexual differentiation, it is not something that it's like a voluntary surgery which one wants to opt for on its own. Like, it's not like a sex change, but it is more of a problem that somebody faces and because of which it has to happen. And I think the sensitization of this aspect, being a lawyer myself in the profession for so long, if this is something unknown to me, then I only wonder that what is the level of awareness we are trying to spread in order to either humanize or empathize or make this a more literal part of our environment, because I mean, I don't think there is any.
See, I'll tell you, this has become, in today's day, she was major, so it's not an issue. In today's day, this has, in fact, one of my matters pending before the Chief's Court in Supreme Court, this has become a very major issue. Now, transgenders
Yeah.
and those who are whose parents have made them go through sex reassignment surgery, have come up in arms saying that, or who haven't gone through it,
Yeah.
are saying this sort of surgery option should not be with the parent.
Yeah.
It should only be with the child when they become major, who
Right.
are our parents to
Right.
decide.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very strange argument because our parents choose our names. Our parents, if I have, say, hernia at birth,
Mm-hmm.
would my parents not do the hernia?
Hmm.
If the parents genuinely,
Hmm.
after consultation with two doctors,
Yeah.
feel that that is necessary for your health,
Yeah.
for your. So the question that is being asked by them is,
Hmm.
and it's a very, very bigger issue. It's there in the US, it's there in India less so. But question, can the parents decide about sex reassignment surgery
Hmm.
if a child is born with features of both sexes
Right.
and has predominantly, according to their hormones,
Hmm.
got a predisposition to one sex?
Right.
Now, one of the major issues in this is,
Yeah.
do people want to convert them to men because India is men centric?
Right.
So, obviously, the doctors will address that.
Yeah.
But I think parents should have a right.
Yeah.
But that petition is pending.
Right.
And
In fact, that's a very interesting point because we did a case study analysis with countries like Malta and Argentina because they were probably leading in transgender. And they say that they don't allow, I mean, the consent is actually necessary, but I see where you are taking it from because consent, when if it's an adult, it's a different thing. But with a child, I suppose with the right kind of medical advice, it should be permissible because if
and
you.
the doctors are scared they'll be sued. This is the problem that's happening.
Yeah.
Parents come to you,
Yeah.
they say, please help us.
Yeah.
Our child's having this problem.
Yeah.
And the doctor's scared that, look, suppose we are sued
Hmm.
later. So we have to protect those who are doing something
Yeah.
in good faith.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about doctors like pediatric surgeons
Who are very
who are top of the country,
Yeah.
PGI, AIMS, etc.
Right.
And they are saying if it's required,
Yeah.
and if a team of two doctors is saying it's required,
Yeah.
including a surgeon and a psychiatrist, then
Right.
you have to think of it.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and I think it will be an interesting debate as and when it does take place about explicit ban or not for such sexual interventions. But I mean, self-determination is also something which under transgender in many Western countries which look up to protecting the rights is something which is argued to be should be permissible. That self-determination is probably it's more intervention through regulatory means in our system.
And this is a topic for a big debate. There's a case of Arun versus State of Madras, where some amount of banning was done, and then guidelines have come from the ministry.
Right.
Those guidelines are actually very balanced guidelines.
Right.
I can't totally tell you what the guidelines are, but they are balanced. They're
Right.
trying to see that in cases where it's required,
Yeah.
it should be done, and the doctors should be protected,
Right.
and the parents should be
Yeah.
protected as long as it's done with proper medical advice.
Right. No, and another, and because I also have some experience of doing some pro bono work, and it kind of makes me wonder at a lot of times because that the amount of resistance sometimes when issues are not high at stake, the laws which are just there for being made just for the heck of it. For example, I had some experience of working on the migrant workers case, and during COVID and even thereafter, I did the analysis that how migrants have had 4 acts, migrants and laborers in general, who are voiceless. They, despite having an act in 67, despite having an act in 2008, now there is a uniform labor code which apparently was formed in 2020, yet not been implemented because of lack of rules. Similarly, we see that even for transgender, that there is an act since 2019, and in fact, Jane Kaushik, Justice Padiwala's judgment very recently has really lambasted the state and the central authorities about how it's not been implemented. How do you see progress of such acts? Like, where do you think the voice or the opinion has to change, and what needs to change that these acts are actually implemented to ensure the neediest of the lot, because migrant is also people who will not come to courts easily. Transgenders are also people who don't come to court easily. Like you mentioned, you were kind enough to do that case for free for that lady who traveled all the way to seek your support out of love and affection. But not many even explore that option because they feel underconfident. They don't feel that they could come to a place like Delhi where they can fight for their rights. So where does the balance lie, and how do you see this being resurrected at some time in future?
India is supposed to be the kindest of kind countries.
Right.
I mean, we have the most rishis, we have the most munis, we have the most religious, moral people. But we are unkind with our transgenders. We are unkind to another limit. Firstly, you can't single them out. Secondly, you have to give some employment or the other.
Right.
Man has economic means, he is or she is powerful. She will have a life of dignity. So, whether it's a person with disabilities, whether it's a person with problems, whether it's a person who is distinct from you or different from you.
Yeah.
So, somewhere we have to teach our children. We have to make them integrated with our society.
Yeah.
I think the Transgender Act, for many reasons, apart from its non-implementation, has many lacuna in it. But more importantly, as a society, we are not kind. As a society, we are not inclusive. For example, color of skin. We are the most conscious of color of skin to some extent.
Correct.
So as a society, if we are going to make the transgenders stand and beg, then we will only view them in that light.
Correct.
If they are working, say, in the Supreme Court or High Court, it'll become a norm. We will appreciate and recognize them. And you have to protect them also, their rights,
Yeah.
their marriage rights, many rights which need to be
I mean, come to
protected.
think of it, I don't know a single transgender judge or a single transgender senior advocate who we know and who we talk about. So clearly, the society needs to change, and I think maybe the change lies at a very grassroots level. Because interestingly, in fact, I'll share a small anecdote. I was so my elder child goes to school now, and she was just talking about her kids in school, and she was talking about who's her friend and who's not, and she gave an incident about how one of her closest friend has two papas. So I was just jokingly talking about it. How's that? So she told me, no, Papa, it's fine. People can have two fathers. It's not necessary for, and this is a 4-year-old girl. So clearly they're teaching her something right in school where they're trying to not stigmatize and educate them in a way to understand that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be not exactly the same. And I think maybe that's where, if at all the government wants to push, it should push. Then in the education policy, they should try and create a more inclusive environment, because if it's not ingrained in our systems at a very early age, we will all suffer from some personal bias, and we are only trying to overcome it by trying to make one law or the other, but not really touch upon it.
You see so many in the West, there is no such stigma attached.
Yeah.
I don't know what we've done as a society that we have marginalized them. They were never marginalized in ancient India, what I can understand.
Right. Thank you, ma'am, for such wonderful insights. That I think the topics that you have touched upon are obviously extremely, extremely relevant for all of us. But I know that there's a lot more to be shared. So I look forward to sharing the second part also with you. Thank you.